Now the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. What might be right for you may not be right for some.
We sit back!
That's right. As you probably guessed, we're going to talk about our favorite TV show, Diff'rent Strokes.
What you talking about, Chris?
Just kidding. We're actually going to talk about, in this list highway, our top 10 favorite TV series of all time.
So here's my question for you. Is that even relevant anymore to say TV shows?
There used to be a delineation between what was in the movie theater and what was on TV. And that's been blurred. It's not existent anymore.
And I love how you can watch a great show, a great series, and even if it's a show you've never seen before, but it's already been out there, it's already in the can, you can really appreciate it. You can just watch it straight through. And guess what? No commercials. It's awesome.
Right. Yeah.
It's a totally different experience. We agreed on some rules here. We're not going to do miniseries.
We're not including.
Whether it's Roots or Band of Brothers, it doesn't matter. We're not doing them. They could be a one and done. They could also be something that was early on in the 50s, or they could be last month.
Yeah, who knows?
So we're going to do a top 10 for this list highway. I have a feeling some of yours are going to be on my list. I just want to throw that out there.
Yusa might be wrong.
Nisa might.
My number 10 is
I'm sorry to bother you, ma'am. I just wanted to ask you one more question.
the great 70s detective series starring Peter Falk.
It's not on my 10, but I will say this. I've really come to appreciate that show.
It's a show that when I was growing up in the 70s, my mom loved. I never watched it. It's just something that was always on.
Yeah.
I never really came to appreciate it until recently. Anyway, they only did like about 7 or 8 episodes per season. And so the episodes are really tightly written.
Do you think the show was successful because of Peter Falk?
Yeah.
Or do you think it was the writing?
It's both.
It is definitely both, right?
Yeah. And if you've never seen Columbo, which I had never seen until recently, it's the inverse of a whodunit. In this series, you see whodunit, and then you're watching Columbo figure it out.
I really like the writing a lot. I also really appreciate the guest stars.
The best episodes are ones that have actors that spar with Peter Falk.
Yeah.
Who's great. Peter Falk makes what could be a really annoying character
Yeah.
extremely likable.
By the way, very comical.
Very comical at times, yes.
Very interesting that the bad guys are almost always 1%ers. And he's totally not.
No.
So there's that immediate contrast. I don't even know if we're supposed to believe that he is disorganized and clumsy and forgetful.
Or is he using that to like disarm his antagonists?
Yeah, but they're almost always a little cockier than him.
Those are the best episodes.
Columbo's a great start.
Yes.
I'm going to go into my number 10. And this is a show that I caught during the pandemic. I'm sure we all watched a lot of shows during the pandemic. I love the casting. I love the acting in it. I love the writing. And also, similar to Columbo, I feel like there were 6 episodes a season.
Yeah,
6
you're
or
right.
7. I think a lot of people know Peaky Blinders over the last 5 or 6
Starring
years.
Cillian Murphy, who just won an Oscar for
Yep.
Oppenheimer.
But Peaky Blinders and, of course, Oppenheimer, I think have put him in the stratosphere.
Yeah.
Every season put it up a notch to me. And some of it was the new actors that they would introduce, but also the elevation of the other actors.
The best series when they lose an actor, like the one actress died,
Yeah.
they're able to elevate it still.
That was a big loss, by the way.
That was a big loss.
So that's my number 10.
My number 9 is one of the one and dones that we were talking about. I think it's the perfect season of any series.
Oh, crap. I completely forgot about that one.
This, to me, like, went up and down on my list.
Yeah.
But I always made sure it was in my top 10.
Yeah.
And it's now my number 9.
That's really good. So well written.
It's one of those,
Yeah.
like, movies and TV series that is just perfectly cast.
You can see why it launched a lot of careers. One of the characters that always jumps out at me is the Jason Segel's character in his the episode where he's playing drums. And you can't get any more brilliant than that, where it starts, you're hearing Spirit of the Radio or Tom Sawyer by Rush, but you're hearing his perspective
yeah.
of what he's playing, and then suddenly they jump out. And you're hearing what he is actually playing as a shitty drummer.
And you're also his dad's playing it. Yeah.
That's what the show is so good.
It's great.
Cause you're my lady of the morning.
number 9 is
She's dead, wrapped in plastic.
Did it make your list? Tell me if it didn't.
Oh, let's put a pin on it.
I know what that means. It almost didn't make my list because I feel like it had some flaws in those first 2 seasons.
It had some flaws in the second season.
Yeah. Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
And I know that it had.
That's
to do,
where it fell apart.
And didn't David Lynch depart?
He did.
Okay, there you go. So
Yeah.
I don't think you get much more unique.
Absolutely.
Especially if you go back to the late 80s, early 90s.
There was nothing like this.
Nothing like this show.
You would not have the X-Files, you would not have the Sopranos.
But it's also David Lynch, and you're not going to see anything like this.
And that adds like so much more to it.
What I also like about the show is how many quirky characters there are, how many characters there are. It's a very, very different show to have such an ensemble. What year did the 3rd season come out?
2017.
2017. I love it. You know, I had to watch it twice, that 3rd season. It was so bizarre. I found that the second watch was so much better. It certainly is very different from the first 2 seasons.
Well, let's put a pin on that. So let's go to number 8. My number 8 is like with Peaky Blinders, it just got better and better every season.
Yeah.
And it culminated to what I think is one of the greatest series finales of all time.
I was good at it.
I have to say, it's not on my list, and I'm surprised it's not on my list.
Now, you've mentioned before to me that you think Better Call Saul is, you like that more than Breaking Bad.
it's not, that's not on my list either, which I almost feel bad about. I do think Better Call Saul is a better...
It's like ranking Godfather and Godfather 2.
Better Call Saul is one of my honorable mentions.
Say my name.
Bryan Cranston gives one of the greatest performances, I think, in the entirety of television.
You're goddamn right.
One of the things that makes that a great show is the chemistry. Maybe one of the great duos.
Yeah.
Jesse.
Aaron Paul and him.
Yeah.
Cranston, yeah.
They're great. They're great together.
Yeah, Mr. White. Yeah, science.
And all the side characters.
Best criminal defense that money can buy.
Well, hell, I gotta say, that is an awesome 8. My 8, folks, is...
Hello, Newman.
Hello, Jerry.
Are you still master of your domain?
I'm queen of the castle.
In my honorable mentions.
Here's why it made my list. What I realized is I don't have a lot of comedies in my top 10. I really don't. And I probably should.
That's a shame.
Seinfeld had a dry spot for me, and it was definitely the later years.
It's also the earlier years, too.
What I would say is season 1.
It wasn't until I think the 3rd season where it hit its stride.
Completely agree. So season 1, 2, trying to climb.
Absolutely does.
I gotta say, season like 8 and 9 are almost unwatchable for me these days.
The Merv Griffin show is
Sure.
in one of those.
Sure.
And that's a great episode.
I'm not saying there's not a few good ones. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
for me, it's that middle, that 3 to 8, 3 to
I know what
6.
you mean.
I think are just
Once
phenomenal.
Larry David left,
And I mean,
it became more absurd.
yes,
Yeah.
Buddy.
their prime when they hit their stride with him in
Yeah,
play.
I would say
of course.
like 92 to like 96.
Like
something
I would
that.
say top comedy magic.
It shrinks.
Like a frightened turtle.
Great chemistry with the cast.
Always cracks me up. I can rewatch those and laugh.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just a great comedy. So that is my number 8. Hale, what is your number 7?
My number 7.
Get rid of the C word.
I'll leave when I'm good and ready.
It's Arrested Development.
And most people will understand what the asterisk means.
I don't because it's not in my top 10.
The first 3 years on Fox
All right.
are, I think, the greatest sitcom ever produced.
Speech. 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 Speech.
The family continued to chant speech, speech, speech for no one in particular.
Do you think that show was good from the get-go? In the first season?
Yeah.
Like early in the first season.
You can watch the pilot now and be like, oh yeah, they've got it. The 5th season on Netflix is just a fucking mess.
What?
First 4 seasons, I think, are so strong.
The whole show, for me, I never...
It never clicked with you. It's true.
I really appreciate them. They're comedic guy. I mean, to me, there's a lot of comedic genius in that show. You know what threw me for that show is that, in a way that I never connected the way you did, was Ron Howard's narration.
The narration gets worse.
I got kind of bored hearing Ron Howard. Does that make sense? I mean, I don't know if
it makes sense. I understand that. And because it was always used sparingly. But it like I said, it gets worse in the Netflix series. The last episode of season 3 sets up Ron Howard being a player in the actual show as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And that actually kind of ruins the whole thing.
I don't see it as a series. Maybe a movie.
Too much Ron Howard.
Too much Ron Howard, but I will say this. I need to rewatch that show because I find that when I pick up on it occasionally, I'm like, that is a very good show.
So what's your number 7?
My number 7 is...
The Twilight Zone.
It's in my honorable mention.
So the reason I'm picking Twilight Zone, folks...
Hold on. Are we talking about the black and white Rod Serling Twilight Zone? Because there's been many iterations.
No. We're talking about the later... rebooted. No, just kidding.
One that nobody remembers?
Exactly. All right, I'm kidding. Yes, of course, Rod Serling.
Some of the greatest science fiction ever written.
It really is. And what I like, look, first of all, of course you're not going to like all of them, but there are so many classics.
And back then, in the 50s and early 60s, they did like 30 episodes.
30 episodes, by the way, in season 1.
And out of those, like 20 of those are good.
They mixed it up, man. Like they did a little less in season 2. Season 3, was that the one where they did full hours? Or was that season 4?
Yeah.
Okay. Season 4,
that's where it falls apart.
I actually don't like the 1 hour episode.
You can't watch those. It doesn't fit the format.
Look, we don't even have time to name all the classics. If you love Twilight Zone...
If you like the Twilight Zone, you know what ones.
You know what the classics are. We're not going to list them all.
It was on my top 10 for a while, and then it's just kind of skirted out.
It's kind of comical how over the place my top 10 list is for shows.
Yeah.
But certainly going from Twin Peaks,
Although going from like Twin Peaks to Twilight Zone is not that much of a stretch.
That's not that much of a stretch.
Needle, please.
That is my number 7. What is your number 6?
My number 6 is...
Those were the days.
I did not see this coming.
It's still watchable. In fact, I think it's even as relevant now as it was fucking 50 years ago.
Okay.
Sadly, unfortunately. But here's the thing about that show, when you watch it now, is that...
Criticizing the racism.
It's parroting it, but it also, the characters are fully fleshed out. Like, Archie Bunker might seem like, a cartoon character, but as played by Carol O'Connor, he brings this, massive pathos to the character, too.
What I won't live long enough to see is a meathead on a payroll.
When the hell are you going to admit that the war was wrong?
I ain't talking about that war. I don't want to talk about that rotten damn war no more. I'm talking about something else.
But they could never make that show today.
People say that, and I'm not sure if that's necessarily true.
Yeah, your point about how it can be relevant today is how there's racism pretty...
Well, the things that...
Clearly today.
It's the things that are said.
Yeah.
I'm talking about specific words that were used in that series that definitely cannot be said today.
Yeah, you're saying it dates the show.
No, I'm not saying it dates it, but I'm just saying, it's a word that people in that situation and class would use.
Yes.
But you cannot put on TV now.
You're right.
They did 50 years ago.
You're right.
In certain episodes.
I like the supporting cast of that show a lot.
It's great.
And this here is my flag!
Young Bob
Gene
Reiner.
Stapleton as Edith is
They're
great.
here to change partners, but not for dancing.
She ends up being like the heart of the show. What I actually find fascinating about that character is she actually represents Christianity. Mm-hmm. The true, if what you consider to be the Christian ethos. She actually represents it,
Yeah.
but it's done in this like non-conservative way, which I find really interesting. And I think that still has relevance now.
All I know is Beverly was killed because of what he was. And we're all supposed to be God's children. It don't make sense. I don't understand nothing no more.
When did that show run? From when to when?
I want to say like 70 to like, you know, it like had so many spin-offs, and then like they spun it off into like Archie had his own bar and like lived with like teenage nieces or something.
Are you saying it jumped the shark?
Definitely jumped the shark for sure. Like it was just Archie running his bar and like
It's
Archie Bunker's place. That's what it was.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Reggie Jackson guest stars tonight.
My number 6 is. I don't even know like how this show can go unwatched by people. It's a gem. It's it's short-lived. Doesn't have a lot of episodes. 2 seasons.
Like Freaks and Geeks, it's got the perfect length.
Oh my god.
The perfect lifespan.
One of my favorite characters is definitely a supporting character, Murray.
Sometimes I have good ideas. When? Like that time I saw you for the first time on stage. I said face the front, and you did. We've never looked back since, have we?
Every episode is funny. Of course, they mix it up with music.
It's probably one of the most creative TV series of all time.
I agree. Sure. I rewatched it recently, and I laughed just as hard.
It's still good, yeah.
I love the songs.
You organized all of my ex-girlfriends into a choir and got them to sing.
The chemistry between the two.
3 of them.
So I've got 2 bands now.
You'll just manage us both.
No, I can't. I'm not even supposed to manage one band. I'm supposed to be working at the New Zealand consulate, Brett.
Murray, do you think you could find another cubicle?
Sorry, Greg. Yeah. Let's just calm down, all right? We shouldn't even be arguing in front of the map. It's not right.
Yeah, you're right.
I had this on my list, and it's in my honorable mentions because I do love this series.
What a loser.
It's one of the best series of all time.
Okay.
I love it.
Well, it should have been on your list, but it isn't. Okay, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is sticking with the UK.
I mean, the guy is an epic fuck-up. He's so dense that light bends around him.
I knew you were going to put one of these British shows in there. I have no British shows, but I understand why you.
I love this show. Actually, to me, this is like the most rewatchable show of all time.
Who stars in it?
Peter Capaldi.
Admit it. You've all had this exact nightmare.
As Malcolm Tucker. But it's a big ensemble.
It's a fucking lockdown right now.
Come off it. We're not in a prison drama, are we?
We are in a prison drama. This is the fucking Shawshank Redemption, right? But with more tunneling through shit and no fucking redemption.
Isn't John Cleese in it?
No, you're thinking of Fawlty Towers.
I expect to be able to see the sea. You can see the sea. It's over there between the land and the sky.
Thinking of Fawlty Towers.
This is another great show, which is on my honorable mention. But this, to me, is like one of the greatest filmed political satires.
Jesus, Terry, the letters.
That's great.
What does it say, Terry?
It says Liam.
No, it doesn't.
Bentley.
Not there, it fucking doesn't.
You all have always had like an affinity to like British comedy. Way more than me.
There's the dark acerbic wit and the sarcasm that I'm drawn to.
This is the trouble with the public. They're fucking horrible.
Peter, you can't say the public are fucking horrible.
Yes, I can. I've met them.
I mean, I love Monty Python films.
Let's put a pin on that.
Uh-oh. I think we know what that means, folks.
Oh, it's so great to be part of your feel-good moment.
You're a dirty little prick.
Veep was the American version of Think of It.
Veep with
Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Okay.
Shove it up your ass.
Oh, thanks so much.
And Veep is great too. Veep is also on my honorable mentions. But the Think of It is rewatchable. It's got some of the best dialogue of all time.
When is a party not a party? When it's at your house?
Malcolm Tucker, played by Peter Capaldi, is one of the greatest characters. I would put him up there with Homer Simpson, put a pin on that. For television characters of all time.
You know Jackie fucking Chan about me.
I will give it its due. I've never been excited about it at all. But I will try it.
Oh, fucktastic.
My number 5, and folks, it had to be on there. I'm just going to say, it's it's Star Trek. I had to have a Star Trek on there.
I thought about it, but then I was like, kicked myself in the balls and said no.
Here's the problem with Star Trek, if I can just lead off with this. There are flaws in every show.
Yes.
With Star Trek in the name.
Only a handful of them are good episodes.
What do you mean?
Every iteration of Star Trek, only a handful of episodes.
Disagree. I would actually say in the very first Star Trek with William Shatner,
there's like maybe 10 or 12 that are
no
good.
way. You're talking about you're talking about the best of the best.
What? Yeah.
But
I'm not going to watch mediocre shit like The Way to Eden.
Yeah, but you're saying out of 80 episodes, there's only 10 good ones. I disagree.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I'm saying.
He's wrong.
No.
Herbert.
My number 5 is actually not the William Shatner series.
Is it Voyager?
No, it is Star Trek. Yes, there are flaws, the first season.
Enjoy what we have.
The show really got good in the second season. I think there are some really good gems in that season.
Can I just say, I actually really liked the second season.
It grew on me.
I actually liked Dr. Pulaski. Approved. It got better in the second season. I like it.
It did get better. Of course it got better. But I think what the third season did is you got a better writer, a head writer, Michael Piller. You also
In the third
introduced
season.
In the third season. You also introduced some talent like Ronald D. Moore. You had, of course, good chemistry with some of the actors. You had some really good sci-fi episode writing.
Your Starfleet was founded to seek out new life. Well, there it sits.
A lot of people say third season. I agree. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth.
It gets better.
In this...
Except for the seventh season.
For me...
Where it drops off.
There are some gems in the sixth season, but for me, the sixth and the seventh, it kind of teeters. So that is my number 5. Hey, what is your number 4?
My number 4, which I struggled with, but I had to put some other stuff ahead of it.
Small Wonder.
Yes, of course.
I knew it.
She's a small wonder.
That 80s gem, watching it like for no reason because you had nothing better to do in the 80s.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, my number 4 is the complete opposite of that.
When you walk through the garden, watch your back. Well, I beg your pardon. Walk the straight and narrow.
I'm going to put a big, giant pin in that, if I can.
Okay. All right, good. All right. I figured as much.
Can we talk about that a little later?
We can.
Okay, good. All right, my number 4 is... Here's the thing about MASH. Again, like Seinfeld, like some other shows we've talked about, TNG, there are problems with it. You know, it has these moments, certainly these later season episodes, which I know you and I have made fun of for good reason.
It went on too long.
It went on too. It was 11 years.
3.5 times longer than the actual Korean War.
All right, that's a good point. But what I would say is some of the best comedic writing in comedy.
Absolutely. Courtesy Larry Gelbart.
Yeah, Larry Gelbart. And some great writers in the early years.
Yeah.
And I gotta give credit to the chemistry of, I mean, let's face it, one of the best ensembles ever.
It's nice to be nice to the nice.
These are Captains Pierce, and these are Captains McIntyre.
Oh, you.
Who are you calling a you?
Dear son, you obviously haven't sent her a recent picture.
Don't change the color of your face. I'm out of umber.
The kidneys were expecting orange juice. Silly kidneys.
Even though the writing in the later seasons was good, the chemistry was still good.
Yeah.
Like, David Ogden Stiers as Winchester is still awesome.
Mother and Dad, I will put this as eloquently and succinctly as possible.
Get me the hell out of here!
I love the chemistry of Alan Alda. Certainly Mike Farrell.
But what are you waiting for? Get in.
But also even earlier,
Wayne Rogers.
Wayne Rogers.
Hey, that's right. Frank's a doctor. How about that, Hawk?
Your secret is safe with us, you son of a gun. Certainly your patients will never know.
One of the best bad guys in comedy TV history, Frank Burns.
Yes, right.
And you can't forget the great Henry Blake, played by McLean Stevenson.
Yeah, if we were going to do like a top 10 episodes, TV episodes of all time, would Henry's last episode be in your top 10?
It would.
One of the greatest episodes of all time.
It would, and it makes me tear up every time.
Lieutenant Colonel, Henry Blake's plane was shot down over the Sea of Japan. It spun in. There were no survivors.
There's so many great episodes.
I mean, I agree with you. Like, we could do a whole show on MASH.
We really could.
I totally agree with you. Like, it's in my honorable mentions.
What's normal, Frank?
Normal is everybody doing the same thing. What about individuality? Well, individuality's fine, as long as we all do it together.
My number 3 is a show, speaking of shows that have been on too long, but when it was good, its golden era is the best period of television ever produced.
It was in my top 10. It was in my top 10, and then suddenly it wasn't.
Because it's been on too long.
Because it's been on too long.
Yeah. You know. And I had to like think of that.
I kept coming up with new other shows that I was like, it's such a great show.
But you can't deny the greatness of this show.
No, I mean it's one of my favorites, right? But when you're on for 30 plus,
here's my theory of the show.
Yeah,
is that it was developed and like there was potential there, and like, you know, all these different writers were brought in initially.
Was Conan O'Brien one of the writers?
Yeah. He wrote one of the greatest episodes of all time, the monorail episode.
So then, mono means one, and rail means rail. And that concludes our intensive 3-week course.
We could do a list highway of just the best Simpsons.
Yeah, we could. Yeah. But I think they just developed the show, and then like it reached a point where like it stopped developing and just sort of enveloped back on itself.
Right.
And you know, I think around like the 2000s, that is around what happened, I think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just now is just like a thing that is on.
I gotta name one episode. I love The Simpsons. My favorite episode is probably Lisa the Vegetarian.
I mean, great.
I have a crazy friend who says it's wrong to eat meat. Is he crazy?
No, just ignorant. You see, your crazy friend never heard of the food chain.
Like you said, we could be here all day.
You're right. We can't talk about this. That's another show. Okay, folks, my number 3 is...
I forgot about Dark. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
Damn right it is.
Ooh. And number 3 as well. That's really high up.
It's top 3 for me. Dark was a show that also came out during the pandemic era. And it might be
I think it was done before that.
It may have, actually.
But you didn't see it until the pandemic.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Great writing. And well constructed.
You know what it is? It's the opposite of Lost.
I'm not going to compare it to Lost.
Well, you can compare it to Lost, where it's like they actually have like
a plan, an actual
story.
I mean, we found some hatches, and there was a button you had to push every 180 minutes, or... Well, I was never really clear on that.
You mean they planned the story arc before they started the series?
Crazy, I know.
That's nuts.
I guess that's what happens when you don't have J.J. Abrams.
X-Files should also take a lesson for that.
That too.
I don't want to totally do spoilers, but let's just say time travel is key to the story, and it's really, really well done. you gotta watch this several times. There's no way you can just watch it once and be like, that was good. We'll go on to some other show. You eventually have to revisit this and watch it again.
Much better than Stranger Things, I would say.
I would agree. Yeah. That's my number 3. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is going back to British television.
Oh, shit! Faulty Towers.
No. Close, though. Close.
It's Monty Python, the Flying Circus.
That makes sense.
The greatest comedy series of all time.
It makes sense. I mean, a lot of people would agree with you.
Well, they should, yes.
Well,
created 3 of the greatest comedy films of all time, as far as I'm concerned.
You got me on the films. I fully agree.
I remember watching it on PBS in California on KQED.
Yeah.
Back when I was like 12. To me, like, not only was this show funny, it actually formed my point of view. It actually helped shape that.
What do you mean? Your comedy sense, or your?
A lot of people will just like, because it's philosophy. It's all sorts of things.
Is this nostalgia though?
No, it's not. I watched it again recently. It's still some of the best comedy ever produced.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
The premiere of the Batley Townswomen's Guild reenactment of the Battle of Pearl Harbor.
I like the show a lot. I love the movies.
You and I have the films about the show.
You're right.
And now for something completely different.
Are you ready for my number 2?
Yes.
My number 2 is...
Surrounded by losers, misfits and boozers, hanging by your fingernails.
Bringing you up to speed's like trying to explain Norway to a dog.
One of the best shows for me...
It really is.
...of the last few decades, folks, is The Slow Horses.
Yeah, I know.
Gary Oldman.
So good.
I mean, there's so many...
The whole cast is great.
The whole cast is great. The chemistry of them is great.
Based on a series of books.
I gotta say, the writing is great, and you're right. I mean, the books probably drive it. But
yes, but also the writers are from the thick of it. My number 5.
Oh, hey, Yoko Ono and the 2 remaining Beatles, piss off.
Which is why there's an acerbic wit.
Did you find anything?
I don't know what I'm looking for.
The remnants of a once promising career.
And by the way, we've been talking about certain shows, series that only have 6 or 7 episodes. This is another one.
Because it's British, yeah.
And I think it makes
actually, no, it's produced by Apple, but yeah, they follow that model.
It's nothing. I mean, what it has to do with is good writing.
Yeah.
Tight.
Very tight.
Every season. So tight. Why do you pad them out, folks?
Yeah.
If it's good writing, it's 8 episodes. If it's good writing, it's 5 episodes. If it's good writing, it's 15 episodes. I love Gary Oldman as an actor. He may be one of my favorites.
And he's so great as Lamb.
Check it out. It's one of my favorites.
So you're in charge of the rejects?
I don't like being called that.
What do you call them?
The rejects.
We are at number 1. Your number 1 TV series of all time for what you can remember. Given the long list you probably have that you had to truncate into the top 10, you've arrived at number 1. Chris Hale, what is your number 1?
This is going to be controversial, but I had to put this on because...
All right, I don't want to talk about that.
All right, bye.
We'll see you next time.
Now the world don't move to the beat of just one drum.
What is it?
It goes back to what you previously mentioned. The 3rd season that came out in 2017, I think, is the greatest thing ever produced for television. The fact that thing was...
You mean that it was greenlit?
Yeah. Astounds me.
Why was it greenlit?
Entertainment is all about IP right now. And that's an IP that people know. Whoever owned the IP was like, let's redo it.
Right.
And so David Lynch did his own thing with
Completely.
IP nostalgia, and he fucking did it great. That whole 3rd season makes fun of nostalgia.
James is still cool. He's always been cool.
first 2 seasons.
The first season's great. And the second season is great.
I know, it has
up
its
until
problems,
you find out who killed Laura Palmer. And
Right.
the last episode of that season, directed by David Lynch, also, I can't believe, was produced for American television back in like 1991 or 92, whenever that was done.
How's Annie?
That sets up
Yeah.
the third season.
How's Annie?
Do you like the movies?
I love Firework.
I mean, to me, that is one of the creepier movies.
That's one of the scariest films ever made.
The second season just dipped it too much for me.
It dipped, but like I said, that last episode of the second season is one of the greatest things ever produced for
Yeah.
television.
Yeah.
And then the third season, like, cements
The
that.
third season is just crazy. I love it. I would watch it. The thing about that is I can't wait to watch it again.
Me too.
Here in your beautiful town of Twin Peaks.
All right. Are you ready for my number one?
I think I know what it is.
Yeah, you know what it is. It was in your list. I'm really surprised it didn't make your number one.
This was my number one for like the longest time.
My number one is
All in the game.
I mean, forget about how great the writing is. It's when you really get into it, it's about the deterioration of a city. And I love the arc.
It's got great characters.
First of all, maybe the most amazing ensemble cast ever.
That grows and grows.
And grows and grows and grows. And some of them, of course, naturally, because it's so real, some of them die off.
Well, get on with it, motherfucker.
The first season really does focus on homicide.
It's getting you into
the police department.
into the world of inner city Baltimore and the police department.
Completely. Yeah. Second season takes you into kind of blue collar crime.
Completely different, like area.
Yeah. Third
That's
season,
where you're like, whoa, this show's different.
and it really gets in slightly to politics. But third season,
yeah,
full bore politics. Fourth season, full bore education with politics.
Fifth season, which a lot of people don't like, but I do.
Yeah.
Because I love the media, which is all about the media.
Yeah, Baltimore Sun.
Yeah.
Here's why I love this. When we talk about why does something make the number one spot for series, it's because it is completely mapped out. I guarantee you look at it, you compare this to a show like Lost.
You can't compare The Wire to Lost.
They had no idea what they were doing.
Comparing apples to shit.
But you have to give so much credit to writing that actually maps out year to year what we're going to accomplish. And then, my God, the effort they put into casting, great actors. Yeah.
Can I also say, like, filmed locally, we're in the DC area. Filmed in Columbia, Maryland.
Yeah. Well, that's the sets. They actually were in Baltimore.
They actually filmed, like,
and around DC sometimes. Yeah. And they brought in, as some great shows and movies do, real people.
The fuck you do to you?
I think that we both agree The Wire is one of the best.
We could do like a whole episode on The Wire.
Easily.
I mean,
but I think we have to stick to a format here, folks. This is List Highway. We just covered the best series, our top 10s.
I had to put comedies ahead of The Wire.
I understand.
my own nature.
What the fuck did I do?
But for a while, I had The Wire as number one.
All right, that concludes this episode of List Highway.
Let us know what your favorite TV series are. Maybe it's Walker, Texas Ranger.
Or Mama's Family.
Or Baywatch Nights.
Or Small Wonder.
You are getting tired, very tired.
Your eyelids are growing heavy, heavy, heavy. You cannot hold your eyes open. This was the hours of honestly. You workers without curiosity rate. This was the hours of honestly. You workers without curiosity rate. This was the hours of honestly.
We live inside a dream.